Miss Collier explains.
The number plane.
Our learning intentions are to know the meaning of the terms number plane or Cartesian plane, origin and coordinates. To be able to interpret the location of a point using its coordinates, e.g. 2, 4, and to be able to plot one or more points given their coordinates. We will know we are successful when we can read and plot points on the Cartesian plane. Let's recap some things you might already know. The horizontal line on the number plane is called the x-axis, and the vertical line is called the y-axis. The point where those two lines intersect is called the origin and can be labelled with an O.
Cartesian planes in everyday life. A Cartesian coordinate plane is used underneath the touchscreen of most smartphones or any smart device to help the device figure out the precise location where we touch.
By now, you would be very familiar with number lines. A number line is used to locate a position in one dimension along the line. A number plane is used when we need to locate a position in two dimensions within a plane. A number plane uses two number lines to form a grid so that positions can be located precisely. You might remember these types of Cartesian planes from things you have done in the past. When you were younger, you might have used a Cartesian plane that looks like this one that's quite simple and only uses one quadrant. But you may have also learnt about a four-quadrant Cartesian plane. As I said, a number plane is used to represent a position in two dimensions. Therefore, it requires two coordinates. In mathematics, a number plane is generally referred to as a Cartesian plane, and it was named after the famous French mathematician René Descartes, who was alive from 1596 to 1650. Our Cartesian plane is made up of two straight perpendicular lines, meaning they meet at right angles. We know that we call them the x-axis and the y-axis. The point at which they cross is called the origin and is labelled with an O. The position of a point on the number plane is given using a pair of numbers. These are known as the coordinates. Coordinates are always written with round brackets and a comma is used to separate the numbers. For example, I could say the position of 5, 4. When we are writing coordinates, the x position always goes first and the y position goes second. The x coordinate, the first number, tells us how far away the position is from the origin along the horizontal axis. The y coordinate, the second number, indicates to us how far from the origin it is vertically, either up or down. Writing our coordinates in brackets like this with a comma is mathematical convention and we must always do it. It means that anyone, anywhere in the world could look at those numbers and realize that they are coordinates. Here's a quick recap. First number is the x, second number is the y. The x coordinate shows you the left to right. If it's a negative number, we're moving left. If it's a positive number, we're moving to the right from the origin. The second number is the y. If it's a positive number, we're moving up. And if it's a negative number, we're moving down from the origin. Here is a good summary. We have our origin, we have our x-axis, y-axis, and we have this coordinate 2, 4. 2 meaning along the x-axis, so it's 2 away from the origin, and then 4 is the y, so that's why it's 4 up on the vertical axis, 4 away from the origin. Let's practice plotting points on the number plane. The question says, plot these points on the number plane. So my first point is A, 2, 5. So 2 is the x coordinate. So I'm starting at the origin and I'm moving 2 to the right because it's a positive number. So I'm going 1, 2. And now my second coordinate is 5. So 5 is moving up, and that is up along the vertical axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This point right here, and I'm putting its label, which is an A. I'm always using capital letters. So that is my point 2, 5. B is 4, 3. 4 is the x coordinate. So I'm going along to the number 4, and then the second number is 3, which is the y coordinate. So I'm going up to the 3. I'm placing a dot on that cross, and I'm writing in my letter, which is B. And then lastly I have C. Now C's first point is 0. That's the x coordinate, which means I move 0 squares away from the origin. So along the x-axis, I'm just going to stay at the origin and I'm not going to move. But the second coordinate is a 2. That's the y. 2 means go up. So I'm staying on that origin line and I'm going 1, 2, which means it stays on the y-axis. And that is point C. My question hasn't told me to join them up or do anything else, so that's how I'm going to leave it. You have a go plotting points on the Cartesian plane. Let's check your answers. A is 1, 4, so I'm going 1 to the right and 4 up. That's A. B is 3, 2, 3 to the right and 2 up. B. And lastly, C is 4, 0. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then because 0 is the y-axis, I'm not moving at all from the origin, so I'm going to sit there right on that line. That is my letter C. Now that we've had a go practicing on the one quadrant, we're going to recap the whole Cartesian plane, which has 4 quadrants. Quadrants meaning 4 sections. We can see that this main one that we're most commonly known to use is the first quadrant. It then works anti-clockwise. So this is quadrant 1, then quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Along the x-axis, we have the positive numbers on the right-hand side and the negative numbers on the left-hand side. And on the y, we have positive numbers going up and negative numbers going down. The origin in the middle is at the point 0, 0. Then using the scale, we can see that the x's and y's will have different positive or negative values depending on what quadrant they're in. In the first quadrant, the x and y values are both positive. When we move round to the second quadrant, we've moved into the negative side of the x-axis, which means our x will be negative and our y will still be positive because we're still at the top of the graph. As we move further round to the third quadrant, both of our x and y have moved into the negative because we're off to the left and we're down in the bottom. So x is negative and y is negative. In our last quadrant, we've moved back into the positive section of the x-axis, but we've stayed underneath the line in the y negative. So x is positive and y is negative. That's a really great way for you to check yourself and check that where you've put your points is reasonable. Let's practice reading coordinates on the 4 quadrants of the Cartesian plane. The question says, write the coordinates of each of the points A to D shown on the next Cartesian plane. So here I have my Cartesian plane and I've got to write the points A to D. So I'm going to say A, B, C, D. First, let's find point A. It is over here. So first I need to see where it is on the x-axis. If I trace my little line down, I can see it's on the 3rd point in the x-axis. My x always comes first, so it's going to be 3 first. Then I need a comma. Going along, it is then on the 4 on the y-axis. So that is the coordinate 3, 4. B. B is here, sitting on the y-axis. So if I trace that down, I can see that in the x-axis, it's on the 0. Then on the y-axis, when I'm seeing where it is vertically, it's sitting on the 3. So that coordinate is 0, 3. C is up here in the corner of the second quadrant. When I look at this and I go down, I notice that it's in -5 for x. So I'm writing the negative and the 5 using my comma. I can see then as I go along vertically that it's also up here the 5 for y. So my coordinate is -5, 5. And lastly D. D is over here on this x-axis. So on the x-axis, if I look here, it's actually on the number 4. And when I'm thinking of it vertically up and down, it hasn't moved past the origin. So it's 4, 0. Making sure that I have my letter to show which one I'm representing, I have rounded brackets and I have my comma in between my numbers. You have a go at writing the coordinates for the letters E to H. Let's check your answers. Here is E. On the x-axis, it's on -2. And when I look vertically across, it is in line with the 0. So that's a -2, 0. F is in the 4th quadrant. Here, as I look on the x-axis, it is in line with the number 5. For the y, as I go along, it is in line with -2. 5, -2 is my answer. G. G here is in line with the 0 on the x-axis. And then vertically it is -1. And lastly, H. H is in the third quadrant, which means I know that both of my numbers are going to be negative. H is in line with -3. And then vertically it's in line with -4. So the answer is -3, -4. I hope now you can plot and read points on the Cartesian plane.